Hello to all my girls, gays, and theys, and happy Pride Month to all of you. My name is EJ Marino, and welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to be diving into the brand new series. I'm able to see it early, and I have so much to talk about. Oh yes, we're going to be diving into Peacock's Queer as Folk. This made me feel a bit old enough that I have now seen a reboot of Queer as Folk. I saw the original back in the day. I have a whole video about it you could check out up here. And now we are in a reboot for a whole new generation, and it feels like it's for a whole new generation. At times I felt like I was a little too of an older millennial for this show, but at the same time it just feels like good old Queer as Folk. Just good old queer entertainment on our television, and I ate that up. I liked this show for the most part. There was things obviously I didn't like, but it's rare for me to like a TV show all the way through, no issues. Like, I love American Horror Story, but if you watch a review, I'm probably eating into it every episode because it's a what the hell kind of show. That's what Queer as Folk reminds me of. There's episodes that I was a bit frustrated, but by the time it ended, I was just like, this isn't bad. I was enjoying what they were offering. Now, I will say there are some things about this that are very, very different. This is a bit younger. I'm not going to say it's a teen show. They're not going Love Simon route with it. They're not going that young with it, but the original felt a bit more mature. It had a 35-year-old audience, I would say. This feels a bit more 21 to 28, maybe a little 18 to 28 in that age group. There's nothing wrong with that, but for people expecting like mature adult drama, that's not here. There's definitely some teen aspects to this, but there's a lot of young adult stuff as well. It's very real, it's very current, there's a lot to talk about, so I don't think they don't change anything in a way that lessens the stories that they're telling, because the stories that they're telling are very good. I do think this is a very well-written series. There's a lot of things that they're trying to say, maybe a little too broad at times, where I'm just like, scale it back a little bit, let's just focus on one queer issue at a time. Alright, we're trying all of them at once. So yeah, there's things like that, but I think the acting is strong. I think the directing is strong. I love the visuals. There's a lot in here that just, it's a delight to watch. I would also say it's a bit hard at times. The first episode features a very harsh thing. I think you've seen it in the trailers. There is a Pulse-inspired shooting that happens here, and it's hard. It's a hard thing. I would say a content warning for that first episode. It's something we deal with throughout the whole series. We're seeing the aftermath of what happens to this group of friends after a shooting, but that's not just it. There's just normal love stuff, there's just normal queer drama, just normal BS that's there, but the shooting is a central part, especially to certain characters, like Brodie, who is very affected by it, and we're seeing how trauma can affect people and affect friendships and a whole community as well. That's a lot of good stuff. It's hard-hitting. I am from Central Florida. I lost a friend in Pulse. I get how hard this show can be, and I can definitely understand if people are like, I can't watch it, it's a little too harsh. I get that. I'm not gonna shame anyone who's just like, yo, I can't watch this, it's triggering for me. That's okay. But if you're just gonna skip this because it's a reboot of a show I liked when I was 20 years old, girl, get over yourself. Like, things happen. It's a circular cycle. Like, things just happen. Like, it's just gonna... A Queer as Folk remake was inevitable. Like, oh my god, they have an L-word one out, and that ended after Queer as Folk. Like, come on, guys. This is not a shocking reboot that we're doing, but again, it is hard at times. It's also very real. I liked a lot that was offered here. It's a heavy first season, but the season ended, and I was just like, I think I'm ready for more, so that's definitely a good sign. For this section, I'm going to be diving into some of my favorite characters and my favorite moments. I'm going to keep this spoiler-free because there's a lot to spoil. The show has a lot of drama, a lot of things happen, hookups, breakups, all of that is here. So I just want to talk about some of my favorite characters and moments that happen. Also, I'll mention some characters I don't really personally connect with. Nothing wrong with the actors. Again, no hate to anyone here. The creators, the actors, just some characters that I'm like, I would not be friends with that person in real life, but who I would be friends with is Ruthie and Shar. There are the couple at almost the center of this thing. One of them, Ruthie, is played by James Keitel, a trans woman. She's on the show Big Sky, I think. Great actress, queen. She eats the show up. Ruthie is my girl. Like, I felt the most connected to her story. Just a lot. There's an episode where we see some of, her upbringing and what that was like. I loved all of that. That was so good. And Shar, oh my goodness, Shar is that bitch. Like, a non-binary character, goes by they, them, played by a non-binary actor as well. I think CG is their name. Loved him. I loved them so much. It's Shar's like a former punk who's now getting into parenthood, and what does that mean? And do we lose our punkness as we become older? How do we adapt with a partner who's going through a tragedy as well? There's a lot of stuff in this relationship. It feels like it almost makes up for how much I hated Melanie and Lindsay's femme presenting, lesbian relationship. Oh my goodness, they annoyed me so much in the original Queer as Folk that this almost makes up for it. Almost. They're not perfect. These two definitely go through with it, but I don't know, when Kim Cattrall starts kind of babysitting for them, she is playing Brodie's adopted mother, who Brodie and Ruthie are really good friends from high school, so there's like a good connection there. Oh my goodness. When Kim Cattrall kind of enters their friendship, this whole trio becomes one of my favorite things on the show. Kim Cattrall is obviously one of my favorite actresses, and these two are just so good. CG as Shar is just truly a revelation in this show. I've never seen a non-binary character presented like this. I mean, talking about being misgendered at a restaurant, and none of it feels too overly preachy. I know people are going to say this is too woke, too diverse, blah, 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 but I don't really see that. I think it's good and educational. It really does represent the communities, especially in a setting like Louisiana, where it is a very diverse town there. So we're getting that there. I like all that. We also have Julian, who I love this actor. He is on the show Special on Netflix. He has cerebral palsy. He is a pretty well-known comedic actor, a gay actor as well. Loved him. Loved him. Loved the dating stuff. Loved the disability aspect of being gay and being queer, being disabled, and what that could make and break your friendships or your relationships. This character has a lot. I've never seen a character like this on a show like this. It's so refreshing to see a little bit of everyone. And again, him being on the show, it's not like a diversity hire. One, he's a great queer writer with a really good show, but he's also informing people what it's like being disabled in this community. Like, I have a visually impaired boyfriend, and I understand how hard it can be just dealing with life and the struggles and how people react to you and the comments they make. And this is stuff that Julian deals with, and I thought that was so refreshing, so needed on this show. Now, some characters I don't like as much, which they're kind of attached to each other. I don't want to say they're the new Brian and Justin. There's elements there. You see the seeds being planted for that type of story. But Brodie, oh my goodness, he has horrible main character syndrome, where I just know I should be liking him because he's the main character of the show, but I'm annoyed each and every episode. But by the time the season ends, I'm definitely like, oh, Brodie, we made decisions. I may not agree with them, but we made decisions and we're moving things forward. I like that. I definitely think Brodie's character grows, but I was constantly frustrated each and every episode. Speaking of being frustrated, Mingus. Oh my goodness, this character who was the youngest character on this show. I like them. I like the idea of the Mingus character, and they work so well when they're working with their mom, which is played by Juliette Lewis. That stuff is really good. A young queer person with an overly accepting mother. I mean, she's like, hi, gay, welcome to Pride Month. She's that kind of mom, which is like, yay, but also I can understand how overbearing it could be. But once Mingus starts working with the Brodie character and starts interacting with other people like Ruthie, not as big of a Mingus person. I'm just starting to be like, all right, bro, I just don't agree with you, but I understand this is a person who also went through trauma. I don't want to spoil stuff, but definitely goes through it that first episode, so I can see some of the baggage that they have. It's just a little like, it gets frustrating. You know how I am. If you follow this channel, if a frustrating character frustrates me, I'm almost tuning out. Mingus does not get the same redemption I think Brodie gets by the end. Brodie's still, again, not a redeemable character because he is not that great, but there's still stuff there. Mingus just never hits that next level, but next season I could see Mingus having a little bit more to do. I'm curious of where they can go. All of these characters, though, are interesting. I mean, there's so many characters I have not mentioned. There's so much more that I like. Nyle DiMarco shows up, who is a fabulous, like, gay man who is so beautiful. Meg Statler, who I got the hi gay from.
Hi, gay.
Hi, gay.
She's in this as well as like a side character. There's just a lot of fun characters I cannot wait for you to meet. I did not get to talk about Kim Cattrall and Juliette Lewis enough. Iconic, legendary actresses. A lot of good characters, a lot of good moments. I'm curious of what everyone else is going to feel once they start meeting Brodie, and am I going to be, like, the only one who's not on Team Brodie? I'm curious to see where that's going to go. A big talking point is, how does this compare to the original Queer as Folk? I would say that they're very different. Like, there's a club named Babylon, there's gay people, and that's about it. Like, this show is far more diverse, and not just by race, by drag characters, by femme-presenting characters, non-binary characters, trans people. This is a bit more of the LGBTQ rainbow, where the original Queer as Folk was mostly just gay men. You could have just called it Gay as Folk, and same thing would have happened. This definitely feels more queer, way more encompassing. Also fixes some problems shows like the L Word had, which had some of the most horrible trans representation. The newer seasons of L Word have definitely tried to fix that. So I would say it does compare they're both queer shows. This also does try to mirror the original series a bit. Like the first episode has a character who donates sperm, who sees the birth of the baby, and that's all there, and having to rush around to the birth, very similar to the first episode. Some other moments kind of call back to other things as well, but this definitely feels like its own thing. A little bit like how UK Queer as Folk is a bit different from US Queer as Folk, and this is a bit different from Queer as Folk from the early 2000s. I like the evolution. Keep the name, just make it more queer. Alright everyone, that is it for my review of Season 1 of Peacock's Queer as Folk. I do hope to say that there's going to be a Season 2 one day. I like this. Good characters, good storytelling, heartbreaking moments, entertaining moments. I legit LOL'd so many times. There's this one character who is maybe trying to profit on a tragedy, and I mean like the use of Babylon by Lady Gaga, like just so much stuff here that I'm like, okay, I'm eating this up. This is definitely queer. They use a grime song in the first episode. Love that song. Love the soundtrack for this. I just like this show way more than I expected to. I like the original Queer as Folk. It still stands as an important show, but as I said in my video, it's an imperfect series. This is still not a perfect series, but a lot of the issues I had have been fixed, and they're starting to open it up and make this a far more queer and entertaining show. Alright everyone, what did you think of my review? What do you think of the new Queer as Folk? Check it out on Peacock whenever you can, and let me know your feelings down in the comments below. Subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up if you did enjoy. Alright everyone, let's talk about Queer as Folk down below.